Welcome back to Roughing It. Giddy up, horsey.
We traveled from the Tetons and into the valley of Jackson Hole.
The term hole was used by fur trappers who described the descent like falling through a hole. Drop down further south and you'll find cowboy country and the thriving town of Jackson. Due to the rocky terrain, hay growing and cattle ranching have thrived in the valley of Jackson Hole.
Named after Davy Jackson, one of the overseers of trapping operations in the Tetons and relative of the later Civil War figure, Stonewall Jackson, the small town is now geared more to tourism, significant shopping, and a food district. Perhaps more photographed than the Tetons are the town's elk antler arches.
Weighing 1,000 to 2,000 pounds, each arch has come from the Jackson Hole Boy Scouts, who collect them every year in the National Elk Refuge. With its humid continental climate, the town is skewed to the winter skiing set.
The town also elected the first all-woman city government in 1920, including town marshal, mayor, treasurer, clerk, and council.
When in Rome, wear a cowboy hat. I think that's how the saying goes. Stop in at the Jackson Hole Hat Company for an authentic Wyoming cowboy hat. They make them handmade, or if you're flying, you can buy a packable cowboy hat and take it to go.
A link to their online store is in the notes.
We followed the Snake River all the way into Idaho Falls, Idaho, because why not?
The Idaho Falls are a fun sight to see, and we took a walk around the river walk before carrying on. We crossed into Utah.
All right, we are leaving Idaho, and now we are in Utah. Okay, we are passing through Salt Lake City. I'm not gonna stop because I don't want to.
Salt Lake City is great, but not on our agenda for this trip.
Zion National Park in Utah is not very dog-friendly, so we opted for some exploration of the Southwest Wildlife Foundation area near Cedar City.
We did some exploring and hiking around the area.
The mountains are made of Navajo sandstone, which ranges in color. The stunning red, brown, pink, salmon, gold, and sometimes white hues are because of the amounts and forms of iron oxide, as well as the lack of iron. The territory also doubles as a sanctuary for golden and bald eagles. Traverse the area, and you might see some of these majestic creatures soaring in the sky. We took flight ourselves into the desert. Cutting a corner of Arizona and into Nevada, we found ourselves in some blinding heat. It's pretty hot. So it is now 122 degrees out in the desert. It's a little hot, a little warm. The heat and heat stroke isn't the only danger. Sandstorms, flash floods, exposure, severe sunburn, dehydration, and plummeting temperatures at night are just a handful of the risks. We made it to the desert. I love the desert. It's a lot of fun.
I loaded up on enough water to last Skylar and I for a couple of weeks, even though we would just be passing through. The desert can be deadly, even for the well-prepared. Let's talk about desert survival. If you are going to be venturing into the desert, or if you camp there, you're going to want to brush up on your survival skills. As in the mountains, tell someone where you're going first. Even if you're with people, if you become stranded or lost, here are a few survival tips. Number 1, stay calm. Panicking will only make the situation worse. If you are lost or stranded out here, it can be a scary thing, so you have to remain calm. You have to push on for survival. One of your top priorities is protection, and that starts with your clothes and your footwear. Oftentimes, people who get lost out here go off for hikes in shorts and little shirts. That's why I carry a jacket as one of my 10 essential items in my hiking pack, and I choose red. A good color is orange or yellow, something brightly colored, so that if you do get lost, rescuers can spot you. Or if you get separated from your partner, they can see you just a little bit easier. Exposure can be a killer in any environment, and especially the desert. And that means building a shelter when you go to sleep. This will protect you against the elements, wild animals, biting insects, and fluctuating temperatures. Water is the most important thing out here. Evaluate and then ration your water. And while you're doing that, you're going to want to look for a water source. Most of the water that's in the desert is right under our feet. Dried riverbeds, vegetation, under rocks sometimes, you can find various sources of moisture in the desert. You can get hydration from almost any plant, but you don't want to go and start eating a bunch of plants. Prickly pear cactus is good. Gravity works well. If you are at a higher elevation, head down to where water might collect. And just remember that the water that you do find, even if it's underground, could be contaminated. So you're always going to want to boil it first, filter it, use your charcoal from the fire. And if you brought your life straw, you've done a great job, so make use of that life straw. Try to get a fire going. A fire can give you many things. It can make you visible at night if there are searchers out for you, if there are rescue searchers out for you. It will keep animals away, predators. It will keep you warm. And there's just something about fire that's very comforting, and it can boost your morale. It's probably something ancient in our brains from the hunter-gatherer years when we first figured out fire. So if you can start a fire, you've done well. Charcoal is a natural filter, and it will help you filter the water when you find it. So hang on to the charcoal from your fire. There are some rescue operations where it's best to stay put, and some where they're not coming to rescue you and you have to rescue yourself. That means that you're going to be on the move. Don't just go tromping off. Try to walk in the morning or in the evening and out of direct sunlight. This will help you stay hydrated, and it'll keep you from just burning. Try to make good use of the shade when you can. The most important body part that you can cover is your head. So make sure, no matter what, even if you have to sacrifice some other part of your body, make sure that your head is covered. That's why I always wear a hat. And if you don't have a hat, cover your head with a bandana. If you want to upgrade from a bandana, bring a desert tactical scarf or shamag. This is not a bad item to have in the desert. As I try to improve my wilderness skills, I take my cues from the military because they really do it right. And they take their cues from cultures that have been living in the desert for millennia, and they don't go out to the desert without a shamag. Too military for you? Too cultural for you? They come in all different colors. This can be used for shelter. You can tie it on your head and protect yourself from the sun. If you're in a sandstorm, you're gonna want one of these. You can also tie off little strips and use them as trail markers, which can alert rescuers to what direction you're going, and it can also help you determine if you're going in circles. You want to do everything you can to alert rescuers. If you want to upgrade from the shamag, bring a sarong. These come in handy for all the same reasons as well, it's just bigger. Links to all of these things are in the notes. You can navigate if you have an analog wristwatch. This is like a compass, just to demonstrate. So you can lay your watch flat and point the hour at the sun. Since we are in the northern hemisphere, the line between your hour and the 12 o'clock is going to give you your true south. So you can get your bearings just by using a watch and the sun. You can also get your westerly bearing from the sunset. You don't have to be an astronomer to be able to navigate by the stars. Since we are in the northern hemisphere, you only have to know one constellation, and that's the Big Dipper. The Big Dipper kind of looks like a wonky saucepan, and at the end of that saucepan points to the North Star, which is a constant in our sky, and it will give you your true north. Nature has all the information written there. You just have to read it. Ants can make really good nutritious snacks. They're protein and basically a form of vitamin C ascorbic acid. They don't taste very good. That's a snake trail right there. Ooh, snake trails. Snake trails. A way to avoid stinging animals, always look where your foot is gonna go. Always look where your hand is gonna go. The snakes in this region are among the deadliest in the world. There are 6 species of venomous snakes here, and they often can be found on rocks, basking in the sun. A snake can strike 8 feet per second, so you don't want to bother them. Following animal tracks could lead you to a source of water and also food. And here's just a little bonus. Even though the most expert people who know desert terrain have gotten lost before, try not to make any mistakes out here if you don't want to end up drinking your own urine or killing an animal and eating it. Just like in self-defense, remember what you're fighting for. What's ultimately going to keep you alive is your survivor spirit, your willingness to never give up, to be persistent, to keep going no matter what. That is what will ultimately keep you alive. And never, never, never give up. Never. You will survive. Believe that. Know that. I love the desert. I grew up camping here and did a lot of wilderness training in the desert through scouting and just regular backpacking trips. Have fun when you come here, but take care when you do. We moved on from Nevada and crossed back into California. Well, we just passed the California state line and we are back in Cali. How do you feel about that, Skylar? We're going home now. We basically made it. We're not back in LA yet, but we are really close, people. We're back in California, Skylar. All right, we are back in Los Angeles. You can see we're on Hollywood Boulevard and Franklin Avenue. And we made it! We went over 11,000 miles and we made it. We saw America and it was beautiful. I felt like I could have stayed on the road indefinitely and already mentally started planning our next adventure. Making it home was bittersweet. We made it, but at the same time, we made it. The journey had ended. There were no more miles to cover. It's been an amazing experience. Skylar and I celebrated with friends. Only in LA will you find a bar this loud on a Tuesday night. And took in the familiar setting of the city lights of Los Angeles with a quiet kind of reflection. We made it home to California and the road trip ended there, but a new journey was about to begin, our ultimate challenge. Find out what it is in the final episode of Roughing It.
These come in handy for filmmaking. They're just great.